Jay has taken on his second profession as a efficient window checker. He went to Atlanta's famous Magic City to make sure that all the glass in Magic City is properly aligned and level. So Jay, shout out to my guy Jay out there making sure that all mirrors are clean and in place and not being shaken. So we got Alan Perez in the building, my man Alan from our LTS family, and of course our guy Champ from TikTok is back again. Jump right here, man. We're talking Green Bay and Dallas. Should Jerry just fire himself at this point? I don't know. What you think?
The answer is yes.
15 years or so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. This team, Jerry gets in the way more than anything else. I guess there's really no other way to say that. If he were to stick around and work in the draft, that's fine. He seems to do pretty well in the draft. He seems to assemble talent well. But then as soon as the season starts, I don't know, he needs to go get on one of these rockets to the moon that rich people go on and get as far away from this team as possible if he wants them to win.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. If there was one team I think had a more embarrassing loss than us, it was probably Philadelphia last night. But that doesn't speak much for our division as a whole because it's just been disappointing. The
East was a disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, well, before
our loss was.
I gotta get Champ too. I gotta get Champ here too, real quick.
I will say this: our loss was demoralizing. The Eagles just didn't care. That's how I feel about that.
Well, we're gonna get into that Eagles loss too. Shout out to Kelly Manigault. Yeah, my man. Shout out R.I.P. Big Kelly. He got Ravens versus Bills in the Super Bowl. I kind of like that. That's a little spicy take right there. And my guy Red Group Sporting, shout out to Jay. Made the man a basketball T-shirt saying trade Dak and gave Jerry an expiration date. Oh, really? See, look at that. Jay is a man of many talents, man. Man of many talents. My guy Champ, your take on what is next for the Dallas franchise at this point, bro?
First of all, shout out to my main man PSP. Thank you for tapping in. That's number one. Hey, Jerry Jones has to step back because if you look at some of the talent on this team that he's had, not just this year, but look at the talent that he's drafted over the years. The DeMarcus Wares, the Sean Lees, the Dak Nguyen, the Roy Williams, some of the receivers. And look at all of that talent and look how it's not coming to fruition. Now, he's fired several coaches since Jimmy Johnson. He's fired Chan Gailey. He's fired Barry Switzer. He's fired pretty much everyone. He's fired a little bit of everybody at this point. I mean, he even fired the great Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells had to leave at a certain point because, everybody knows because he brought in T.O. and Bill Parcells didn't want him. And you got to ask yourself how far that team would have gone, if that wouldn't have happened with Bill Parcells. Because you remember back then, Bill Parcells had somewhat control over personnel. Long as he doesn't get on a submarine, I think Jerry Jones is safe. Inside joke there. But as long as Jerry Jones does not get on the submarine, I think he'll be good, but he has to step back. Because the thing is, if you look at the NFC, we're just going to go with the NFC teams. If you look at some of the NFC teams that has made the Super Bowl this year, they've not only been aggressive in the draft, they've been aggressive in free agency. Look at what the San Francisco 49ers did just last year with free agency and trades, I'll say. Look at what the San Francisco 49ers did this year, getting Chase Young away from the Washington Commanders. Look at what they did last year with getting Christian McCaffrey. Look at what they did getting Randy Gregory. Look at what the Los Angeles Rams did by moving off of Jared Goff and going to get Matthew Stafford. Look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did last year in trading up in the draft, not to mention going to get Kevin Byrd and some of those players that the Tennessee Titans were willing to give up, including A.J. Brown. So if you're not willing to address issues in the middle of the season, and if you're the general manager, you need to address those. You knew you didn't have a running game going into this year. Zeke Elliott was gone. Tony Pollard was very much a disappointment, although he was he was franchised. Deuce, in my humble opinion, was not used correctly. So you had plenty of teams that were willing to give up their running back, including the Tennessee Titans. It just came out that Derrick Henry said he was this close to being traded. So why didn't you pull the trigger on that, knowing that you had a needed running back? Not to mention, you saw all year this team was weak against the run. The team when teams starts running the ball, when teams start running the ball against the Dallas Cowboys, it gets uglier. It gets uglier than them masterpiece sneakers. I'll say that to this day. It gets ugly. You saw Aaron Jones just went for 100 yards. James Cook went for over 200 yards. It gets ugly. They cannot stop the run. They can't. And when you see all of these needs that need to be addressed, you as a general manager need to go out and seek out some of these needs that you have. And I do not want to hear people say, well, this ain't Madden. Hey, San Francisco been doing it every single year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because every year, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for every last one of us on this panel, we look at the San Francisco 49ers and say, excuse me for saying this, how in the hell did he get him? He's on that team. How much more do they need? They're smart.
I mean, look who else was aggressive this year. Baltimore.
Yeah.
Then the number 1 seed in the AFC. You go get Odell Beckham. You go get Roquan Smith. You've got a great defense now.
Clowney.
You go Zay Flowers, Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
And they're reaping the benefits from it.
And now they get Mark Andrews back, which is gonna get even more uglier for a lot of teams in the AFC. But when you are general manager and you see these,
you know who else was aggressive in the same state? The Houston Texans in the draft this year.
Yep.
Yes, you got to.
And they won the division, and they're in the divisional round. So
yeah, you got to be aggressive with those. You got to be aggressive with things, and if you want a Super Bowl, you got to take it. It's not going to be given to you. And one thing, hey, my mother's a Cowboys fan. Shout out to moms, but she's one of the few people that have realistic expectations. Mm-hmm. We got to stop as the media. Whatever type of media that we are.
You're saying she's not a Cowboys fan. I got you. It's cool.
Yeah, she's not a delusional fan, I would say. She's not a delusional fan. She's been a fan since Roger. But I will say this. You have to be realistic in these expectations. Like I said earlier, you watch these teams. I watch the Atlanta Falcons every single week. They're in my regions. We see the Cowboys every week. They're in certain regions. We know where they're weak at. And towards the end of the season, what comes back to haunt you? A great run defense. And if a team can run through you like a hot knife through butter on any given Sunday, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Man, listen, you guys made some great points on that one. I'm just throw some of these things out there that I thought about when I was thinking about it. Real talk. Jordan Love, 16 to 21, 272 with QB rating of 157.2. I closed my eyes and I squinted a little bit and I thought it was Aaron Rodgers. I swear to God. Aaron Jones, 21 carries, 118 yards. You talked about run defenses. I didn't see very much for him to get 118 yards, and we didn't even have, like the normal rushing attack that we used to see in Green Bay. And then when you look at the list of wide receivers, it's not even the ones that we were thinking about prior to. We talk about Romeo Doubs, Luke Musgrave. Like literally, they said the youngest team in the league. They put them boys on the field, and they said, young man, you don't know better, but you can do better. And it literally happened. Sometimes I look at the way that teams are managed. I know Bo and Champ and everybody mentioned it. Like, can we give some of these young boys a chance? And like, how will they do when I remember when CeeDee Lamb was young and they were going, Cordarius Lamb, he's not, but he progressed into a better wide receiver. Of course, one of the best in the league statistically this season. Something like this in my mind when you're looking at what Green Bay has done, and these are not first round wide receivers, these are not first round tight ends. This is what I would think somewhere down the line they have to look internally at the development of their players and who they draft. But definitely, Alan, I feel for you on this one once again. So I just
their leading receiver didn't even have a catch in that game. Their leading receiver, Jaden Reed, didn't even have a single catch. That's how embarrassing it was.
Well, and honestly, it's a good thing you guys got some garbage time points because it would have looked a lot like that Eagles game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, Green Bay had second stringers coming in, right? Mm-hmm. It was just like, man.
They had that perfect onside kick, too. It's just nobody went for the ball.
Yeah,
nobody went for the ball.
Watching. Everybody was watching it.
It's the same thing they did against the Falcons like a couple years ago. Just the tap it down, let it go 10 yards, and jump on it. Nobody in white was on that ball.
That had that Cam Newton feel. They see the ball and they're like, nah.
Oh man, look, guys.
Like I said, though, at least we tried tackling, unlike what the Eagles did. But
well, look. Since we're talking about tackling, let's talk about a game where I don't know how they were able to tackle each other, but they sure tried. Coming up next, we're gonna talk about Dolphins and Chiefs. Okay, Dolphins and Chiefs.
I love that.
And it only costs $5.99 unless you live near Tanner. Shout out to Tanner Dawson from Let's Talk Sports. Gentlemen, this was one of those games where I was like, man, they gotta cancel it or reschedule it or something, because I don't know in the instance of how this will work, where we're throwing the ball, we're catching the ball, we're touching the ball. I'm sweating. The sweat is freezing on my body. Like, how is this going to work? But somehow, some way, when you take dolphins out of warm water and you put them in cold regions, it doesn't work. Like, it didn't work at all. So right now, fellas, tell me what we're thinking about when it comes to this game right here, Dolphins and Chiefs.
I mean, you knew this was coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's too bad Dolphins can't magically turn into seals when they go into cold water, because they would have had a better chance if that were the case. But again, you say they should have, some should have changed with it. This is the fourth coldest game in NFL history. I mean, it was -7 degrees at kickoff, and frigid temperatures.
The wind chill was like -30.
The wind chill.
Crazy.
The wind chill was was literally -27 at one point.
See, like I said, with me being a Cowboy fan and a Cowboy historian, this is bringing back Ice Bowl vibes from that day. So I always love watching the highlights of that game, because it's like you go to the end of it, they're about to do the quarterback sneak where Bart Starr wins the game. And right before that, that it was said that Vince Lombardi just looked at Bart Starr. It's like, sneak it in and let's get the hell out of here.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure that's what Kansas City fans were just like, let's just get this over with and get the hell out of here, because this is pretty much how it kind of played out. I mean, Miami couldn't do much of anything in this game. Defensively, you kind of understand defensively. They're down like half their roster on defense due to injury. They still put up a valiant effort holding Kansas City to just field goals for most of the night, so you got to give them props for that. Offensively, this is the kind of game that Kansas City desperately needed with how they looked this season coming into the postseason. They desperately needed a game like this to kind of get a little bit of their momentum back. Now, is it going to translate when they go to Buffalo? Who knows? But, at least it's a better showing than what we're used to. Still have problems with drops, though. Kelsey can't hang on to the ball. He's spending too much time with Taylor Swift, I swear. That's why his hands are so slippery. I'm sorry. Yeah, right. But also keep in mind they had no Kadarius Toney, which is probably for the best, and I don't think they even had Nicole Hardman at all as well. So this to me proved two things: Rashee Rice is the real deal; he's going to be a superstar wide receiver in the league. And two, that Kansas City defense is one of the better defenses. It's probably the best defense in the postseason right now. If I'm any team playing Kansas City, I have to be wary of that defense, because they come to play every postseason. Even if they look mid or mediocre in the regular season, postseason, this is where this team turns it on. So keep an eye on their defense the rest of the postseason.
I mean, they've had a much improved defense this year anyway. Like, this is probably one of their better defenses Mahomes has played with. It's just unfortunate for him that now he doesn't have any weapons, and the one receiver they thought was going to be kind of helpful when he isn't throwing the football on the ground is offsides or tipping it to the other team. I feel like he's got some parlays he's trying to hit, and his team isn't in them.
Yeah, I'll give him this, Bo. He'd be very good at volleyball.
Right?
Just saying. He'd be very good at volleyball.
He'd be out first in dodgeball, though. He ain't catching a damn thing.
Definitely out first in dodgeball. Champ, your views on the Frozen Bowl?
Hey, people keep giving excuses to the Miami Dolphins, talking about it was cold, the weather was bad, and they can't possibly run the offense in weather conditions like this. But you got to think about this. You had a chance to control your own destiny early in the season. You was tied for the number 1 seed. You was right there. It was you and another team that had an epic collapse. I mean, you had a chance to get the division. You let the Buffalo Bills come back and take that division from you. So it's very well you could have had the division had you won the Buffalo game even before that. Remember, Buffalo was 6-6 at one point. They were talking about firing Sean McDermott. They were talking about breaking up their whole team except for Josh Allen. So at the end of the day, hey, you controlled your own destiny at a certain point. You dropped the ball, quote unquote, I will say, and you let the Buffalo Bills come back, beat you, and then take the entire division away from you. So now you got to go on the road where you're not necessarily comfortable at. And you got to ask yourself this. Cam Newton said that Tua Tagovailoa was a game manager. Wasn't he right? I'd be hard-pressed to say that at this point. I'd be very, very hard-pressed to say that at this point. And do you really want to give Tua $40 million at this point? He's only been healthy one season. There's no guarantee he's going to be healthy the next season. And you got to think about this.
I mean, they gave it to Daniel Jones.
I mean, that was another move. And I'm going to do a video about this. You will see it before the season is over. Do not overpay for quarterbacks this season unless they show extreme promise.
I mean, you got to give Daniel Jones at least one thing. He's the only quarterback to beat Lamar Jackson out of the NFC. So,
I mean, hey,
fair enough.
I give him that. Fair enough. But I will say this: hey, Miami had their chance.
I mean, that's the only thing on his resume, but still,
Miami had their chance in order to clinch the division. You let the division get away from you. You had to go on the road. Hey, going on the road, you became exactly what we thought you were. You became a game manager, which you really wasn't a world beater in the first place. If you really look at it, look at the weapons around Tua at this point. Look at it. Everybody was saying the same thing about Jalen Hurts last year. Why are we not taking that same energy with Tua right now? You have everything at your disposal. You're in a quarterback's dream. You have 2 high-caliber running backs. You're in a zone blocking system. You have 2 number 1 receivers, and you have receivers on the bench. You got Chase Claypool and Robbie Anderson on the bench at this point. So you have 4 receivers. The field is yours. Everybody was talking about this year he was going to be an MVP candidate. No. And people can blame it on the defense. Hey, if you would have done your job, clinched that number 1 seed, got the first round bye, like you were supposed to do in the first place, when you had the lead for that, when you were the highest scoring offense in the league, after putting up 70 points, you were tops in the league, and you let that get away from you. You have nobody to blame but yourself. No one to blame but yourself. You chose not to get business done at Buffalo. Now you have to go on the road. And guess what? When you're late in the season, when you're going to the playoffs, you're going to have to play weather games. Get used to it. Every team, if I'm not mistaken, teams who won Super Bowls in Miami, they had to go on the road at times. Mm-hmm. They had to go to Pittsburgh. They had to go to Buffalo. they had to go to places where we didn't even want to go. They had to go to Kansas City. I mean, the Miami team had to go to Kansas City and play the longest game in NFL history, double overtime, almost triple overtime. They had to win in those conditions. You're not special just because you're in modern day times.
Mhm.
You're not special. So guess what? Figure out a way to win and figure out a way to get it done where you're supposed to, because if you put yourself in a position to lose, you may lose, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Hey man, look, I like where that one was going now. In real life, you gotta be point there, champ. You know, the conditions are always ideal in Miami, but you gotta know how to play out of your stadium. And that defense, unfortunately, was going through a lot, and they did not travel well. And in this instance, hey, I mean, it did not prevail like we thought it would. I mean, let's look at it. You got 23-24 for Patrick Mahomes. Tua Tagovailoa, 20 or 39 for 199. And the things that I thought were going to really help them were the fact that somehow, some way, if you got Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert in the cold, where's the run game? Where it looks like Raheem Mostert got 8 carries, Devin Achane got 6. 8 and 6 is what? How many? 14? That's not a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, right. So it's somehow, some way, they didn't execute a game plan in which I thought would have been more ideal for the conditions. It's cold.
I mean, they already
windy.
won their Super Bowl, though. Tua made it through a whole season.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing. I honestly think that looking back at it, they celebrated the small wins for the season. That's what I wrote down. Miami celebrated small wins, and it's okay. Tua was healthy. Tyreek Hill became an MVP candidate, proved once again that he doesn't necessarily have to be in Kansas City to be a top wide receiver. You know, top wide receiver does not mean you're 6'3" and running a 4.3 40. You know what I mean? He's proven that time and time again. And then somehow, some way, you know, I think that one of the things that we look over a little bit is that Tua is a pretty good quarterback. Pretty good. Maybe not in that top tier. You know, if there's a tier 1 and tier 2, he's definitely in tier 2. So I think that was a bit of a discovery as far as the Miami Dolphins are concerned. So kudos to that game. Although we wish it would have turned out a little bit closer. It is what it is, man. You got to do what you got to do. You got to take them boys on the road. All right,
I mean,
let's go.
There just wasn't very many good games this weekend. Like, it was a lot of blowouts, and then there was one good game.
And we're going to talk about a blowout, and it's going to hurt my feelings. But oh well. Coming up next. So I didn't type this showrunner, but I'm going to read it anyway. Steelers 17, Bills 31. Are we here to win championships, or are we here not to lose? Is Tomlin not having losing records enough to keep hearing the same message? Sorry, Whit. Thanks, Jay. I hope you brought your tools. I think we have to check for code violations on Satellite 1. Make sure check Satellite 1. Got to check Satellite 1. The main stage has to be level. Please make sure that the sprinklers in the back are according to code. Thank you very much, Jay. Our correspondent, Jay from Rec Room Sports, is right now doing his second career as as he's checking the code in locations such as Onyx. And I believe he went to, Magic City first, if I'm not mistaken. I'm waiting on it to see. Anyway, so Steelers Bills, ladies and gentlemen, this one was a tough one for me to watch. I can't lie. I'm going to talk about it last. I'm going to put some sad music on for myself as well. But guys, Steelers Bills, who wants to talk about it first?
I'll be brief. I don't think all of this is on Mike Tomlin at this point. Y'all, I mean, the team has not replaced Ben Roethlisberger. And I have said it over and over. This team is a quarterback away from being in serious contention. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Like I've said before, and I've said this on many platforms, the only reason why Kenny Pickett is that quarterback of that team is because they were haunted by a ghost of the past. They were very, very concerned about Kenny Pickett being in their own backyard the way Dan Marino was back in the 80s, and they passed up on him, and they did not want to make the same mistake twice. So that is the reason why they stuck with him as long as they did. It's time to pull the plug. You have a rich, arguably one of the richest quarterback draft that you're ever going to have, arguably in the history of the NFL. This is arguably the richest quarterback class in NFL history. You have at least 6 guys that's going to go in the first round, at least 6. And even if they fall to the second or even the third, they're still great quarterbacks. When you think about Jaden Daniels and some of the other guys, draft you one and get your offensive coordinator. Go get yourself a Byron Leftwich or see what the Washington Commanders are going to do with Eric Bieniemy at this point, since they're bringing in a whole new staff at this point. But you have to get an offensive coordinator and you have to get a quarterback. Other than that, the Steelers are pretty much set. They have the receivers. They have the defense. You have a world beater at defense in TJ Watts that's not going anywhere anytime soon. And how well the Steelers draft, the only thing that they have not been able to get right consistently, I'll say, was the quarterback. They stuck with them long term. They had Bradshaw, Roethlisberger. Everybody else, it's in spurts. Cordell Stewart, Tommy Maddox, Charlie Batch, just to name a few. It's spurts. A couple years, they're out of there. So they need to get a permanent fixture at quarterback. He doesn't even have to be a world beater. We saw what they did with the first 2 years with Ben Roethlisberger before he became Ben Roethlisberger. Get you a quarterback, Pittsburgh, or else you're going to be having winning seasons for a very, very long time. All this is not Mike Tomlin's fault. I can't control who you draft at quarterback. And I'm a defensive coach. I can't teach the quarterback how to throw. And if he throws 3 interceptions, I'm a defensive coach. Especially when I got somebody like Matt Canada who don't know his head from a hole in the ground. Hey, that's how it is. Draft a quarterback, Pittsburgh, and get your offensive coordinator.
That's the thing with this team, right? They weren't able to score points all year. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they were able to get into the playoffs really based on their defense actually scored a lot of points. You knew by the time you got to the playoffs, even if they snuck in, the inability to put up points, and then you pair that with TJ Watt being injured, missing this game, it really didn't matter who they came up against. It was going to be a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, looking at my phone right now. Oh, look, Fire Canada is trending on Twitter. No wonder. Yeah, I mean, you need to get the quarterback right. I mean, I feel like this is the second time. If I'm not mistaken, Cordell Stewart was from Pitt as well, right? Wasn't that the same thing they tried to do? Man, hearing Cordell Stewart and Tommy Maddox's name just makes me feel old now, because I remember watching them when I was super young. But yeah, like you said, you got it right with Ben when he came out in 2004. You got it right with Terry Bradshaw. That really kind of saved their franchise, because you remember way back when, Pittsburgh was kind of a dying franchise. They didn't really know what they were going to do with them, until they got guys like Franco Harris and that defense. Three River Stadium was such a tough place to play. You get the quarterback, you're finally able to win championships, and that's what they did with Terry. That's what they did with Ben. You need somebody on the offensive side. I would like to see what Eric Bieniemy could do with this offense if he's available. Go get you a solid quarterback. Like Champ said, there's a plethora of them throughout the league. Maybe you call Chicago up, say, "Hey, can we have Justin Fields?" Or you know what? At this point, we'll give you Dak Prescott. Who knows? But I mean, you get at least a competent quarterback in there that can, do his job. And like you said, TJ Watt's not going anywhere. That team can make a run. That team can be dangerous. Given they have the talent, they have players there. They're just a quarterback away, and really an offensive coordinator away, if you think about it too.
All right, now that everybody's had their say, I'm gonna go ahead and put this solo shot up because it's gonna suck. Let's keep it real. So I've been a Steelers fan for a really long time. I'm talking about Jerome Bettis. I'm talking about Cordell Stewart. I'm talking about Charlie Batch, the bus. Cordell Stewart was a quarterback at Colorado.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking about. But in my mind, when we are thinking about a quarterback right now, Champ was right. We need to draft a quarterback. But I don't want to be necessarily one of these first round quarterbacks. I think we need to figure out just a little bit more help in other places before we do that. But I'm with it. I'm completely with it. I'm not oblivious to what's going on. I hear the noise. I hear the rumblings. This is one of those situations where the draft is going to help us as a Steelers fan, and play with it the offseason and signing free agents, because somebody is going to want Russell Wilson. Somebody is going to want Kirk Cousins. And I would take either one of those guys. Justin Fields has to have a play made for him, which will be substantial to the Chicago Bears. I don't know if they want a couple seconds or something like that, but I would throw it out there. You know what I'm saying? But of course, it's really hard for me as a Steelers fan who started from, back in the 90s to now be a grown man and say, let me get rid of, my Coach Mike Tomlin, man. And to be real with you, it's crazy that we in this position. You know what I'm saying? 17 years of winning seasons. But I heard it earlier that, of course, sometimes the voice falls on deaf ears. Maybe it's time to blow it up. I mean, I love Coach. I love Coach Tomlin. He got 2 rings. He got these seasons, the consecutive seasons of over 500. He's going to be put into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame somewhere, somehow, some way. I'm pretty sure. But in my mind, is the next Super Bowl winning coach out there just waiting to be called upon? Maybe. But I think that the idea is, the era of the coach that is fading out. It happened with great coaches a long time ago. When I think about, the Big Tuna, everybody knows when we think about that, right? When we think about the Hallises and all those guys, like maybe this is another phase of which these things are happening, because Belichick is out, but he's looking. Pete Carroll is out, but he's like 92. Nick Saban is like right behind Pete Carroll at about like 78. So maybe this is an era in which we need younger, more mature voices who are somewhat on the same page as these youngsters in the locker room. Because in my opinion, the clock is ticking. I mean, right now we got we got to have those eyes out, because I'm not going to lie. I'll take Russell Wilson out that thing. I'll take Russell. I'll put Russell in there, because all you want to do is have that that championship winning acumen in the locker room for your next quarterback. And you take Russell, you get you somebody all the way in the bottom of the third, third, fourth round, and we run with it. And we give Kenny Pickett a challenge. But let me say this before we go. I want to give a shout out to Mason Rudolph, because he ain't pout. He wasn't sitting on the sidelines not studying. He wasn't not prepared. He literally cried. I think that second game he was crying, or he was just about to cry, because he said, "Man, I was thinking about everything but football, but I came to work," and I like that about him. And this was a season where when the backups earned their checks. This was a season where the backups earned checks. They were playing. So big shouts out to Mason Rudolph, a great quarterback from the great state of South Carolina. Great quarterback at Oklahoma State, where he was running, going crazy. Yeah, I know. Quarterback at Oklahoma State, but I'm telling you, without him right now, sitting back there from behind Ben Roethlisberger to getting passed over for Kenny Pickett to coming in, like where would we be right now without Mason Rudolph? So shout out to Mason Rudolph. And that's what I got to say about it.
I will say Mason Rudolph has done very well. I like seeing that. I like seeing an Oklahoma State quarterback have success. It's nice to see. Not many of them do. So, like you said, he went in there, didn't complain, and the offense just started to click when he got in there too. So it's like, all of a sudden, you kind of have a backup at the very least. I think Mason Rudolph is good enough to stay the backup in Pittsburgh at the very least. So
I would think that some way, somehow we would keep him, and I would like to see him get an honest opportunity to start, because he came in and did the job. I like if you go in YouTube those Oklahoma State highlights. He is slinging the pigskin around the field. He is not playing, and he ran a little bit at Oklahoma State too. But I think he got a really bad rap in the locker room at one point in time. Yes, he may have said some racial slurs in anger, but hey, when I'm mad,
also took a helmet to the head. But that's
right. That's probably actually why he started playing better.
Yeah, right. Hey, he might have a little fun on the side. Who knows?
Right? Just reset the old brain there, and
yeah,
I mean, he would have gotten more recognition had the guy in Tampa not been playing opposite him in college. So
this is very true. And we will get to that game because that's a special one too. But let's keep it moving, fellas. I appreciate y'all letting me get that off my chest. I felt that right here. That's why y'all are my brothers. Thank you. Coming up next, we got this was a good one, an interesting one to me. Browns Texans, man. Browns 14, Texans 45. When those picks goes wrong. Now, this one right here, fellas, I was like, man, did Uncle Joe wake up and, like everything went out his head? Like, what happened? Because somehow, some way, just like this it says, after those picks, when nobody was thinking about picking up all of these guys that the Houston Texans picked up, they were not going to draft. Nobody wanted CJ Stroud. Oh my God, he's a bad test taker. It's not going to show up on the field. He can't read schematics. Oh no, oh my God, don't draft the linebacker from Alabama. He's got a bad rap. Ooh, he fights at parties. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But like, look,
he hits people. Why wouldn't you want that?
And listen,
in a league where no one wants to tackle, get the guy that hits.
Exactly. So in this case, guys, this was a good one. One of the first ones on this past weekend, and I really enjoyed it. So shout out to the Cleveland Browns. Shout out to Mike for the Man Cave. Shout out to Bobby G out there in Vegas. Two of my guys from LTS who are Browns fans who represent the Browns every day, all day. What we think about, man? We've seen this Browns game, fellas. Who wants to go first on this one? How about we get champ on this one?
Remember that 40 burger you was talking about last week? Yeah, we got that with some fries, a Coke, some chili, some bacon. We got a little bit of all of that on that 40 burger, but I digress. Hey, when I think about that Houston Texans trade with Deshaun Watson, I think about my Atlanta Falcons and how we were in the running in order to get that. And I thank God every single day that we didn't get it, because that would have been a flat-out disaster, especially considering the team that we have right now. But you have to say this. I said, and then you can go back on my TikTok, I said this right after the Georgia game where Ohio State nearly beat us in the college football playoffs, that he should have been the number one pick. He had out-dissected that defense that we had. And truth be told, had it not been for Marvin Harrison going down, we'd have lost that game. We'd have lost. Because we was, like I said, I call those type of games heart attack games. Because you will have a heart attack during those games if you were a Georgia fan, because they put us on our heels. And we barely got out of there unscathed. But back then, I said from the beginning, he was the number one pick. And you also have to look at some of the guys that they took. Look at Tank Dell. Shout out to Trent. He put me on Tank Dell. Look at him being an undersized number one receiver. And remember, he didn't even play this game. And you got to think about this. Next year, they got $74 million in cap space and a deep draft class coming up. They're only going to get better. And for CJ Stroud to come out here and dissect this defense piece by piece is nothing short of amazing. I mean, he's playing like a vet already. And hey, if you really think about it, if he goes out here and beats the Triple Crown defense, the first defense to ever do this in history, if he goes out and do this and beats Baltimore and outduels the great Lamar Jackson, you're not going to hear it. Everybody's going to be singing his praise even louder.
So let's get into some of these here. I mean, you've already kind of mentioned it. Nobody wanted CJ at number 1. Bryce Young was the better quarterback, yada, yada, yada. I was like you, champ. I was screaming, CJ Stroud needs to be taken number 1.
Yep.
You look at what he did against Georgia, that just screams like this dude is ready for the NFL. That screamed to me like he's going to be something special to watch. Kudos to Houston. Shout out to the Just Fans podcast too for these guys are amazing. Go check them out. Rios on our draft we did a draft stream that night. On that night, Rios called them trading up from 11 to 3.
Yep.
With Arizona.
Which was crazy.
Not only did they take CJ Stroud, they took Will Anderson at 3. Oh, here's Tank Dell in the 4th round, one of the best underrated wide receivers in the league this year. Or one of the best rookie wide receivers outside of Puka Nacua, who's also great as a 7th round draft pick. Houston did a very good job in their draft. The best thing that ever happened to this franchise was getting rid of Bill O'Brien and getting rid of their other GM, who they just recently got rid of. Since then, they've been hitting nothing but home runs. I love John Mechie. I know he got injured. I think he's going to, step up here in the next couple of years once he's fully healthy. I love the Tank Dell pick. Obviously, CJ Stroud has turned into what he is. I said it earlier. This team is going to be super fun to watch. And let's not forget some of the other guys they got. Derek Stingley, a lot of people were sour on that pick when they first made it. He's turned out to be a good corner. Petrie, their safety, was also picked last year. Not many people were excited about that. He's turned out to be a good pick. Houston is hitting a lot of good on a lot of great talent right now. And like you said, they got a lot of cap space and they've got a lot more draft capital.
Yep.
This team is going to be dangerous. If I'm an AFC team right now, even Kansas City or Buffalo or whoever, I'm worried about what's going on in Houston right now because this team can take over the AFC in a couple years.
Bo, tell them about it, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything that the Texans have done has been impressive, and yeah, it was crazy that he called that on the draft show. I think we were all pretty much on CJ though. I didn't particularly care for Bryce Young, but what the Texans have done with that talent is amazing because I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be an okay team, right? Like I thought they were going to be like a 7-8 win team. And I figured they would need this offseason to really become competitive. But talk about overachieving and then showing out. But then on the other side of it, you look at the Browns and everybody was like, oh, Flacco's back and all of this. It's going into this game. I picked the Texans because you knew this was probably the game that Flacco turns back into a pumpkin, right? Like at the end of the day, he's 38 and his arm's been dead for, 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I look at what you said, man, and I like Bo, most of the time I'm really into the numbers on this one. But I'm looking like, come on, man, Joe Flacco, 34 or 46, 307 yards. But what killed him, of course, were those 2 interceptions and that 1 pick six. I'm telling you, and to me, they were really on every time they were on a roll. It was something was happening, and then it kind of snowballed to where it was like, oh, here goes the interception. All right, they get the ball back. Oh, there's the interception and the pick six. All right, then third down. It was real repetitive. But let's give some credit to the Houston Texans, man. CJ Stroud, 16 of 21, not too much work, just enough to make him look good. 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a perfect QB rating of 157.2. And then just like that, we got to look at these young guns, man. Nico Collins, 96 yards. We got John Ritchie, 44.
Based on what you're saying, you're crediting Flacco with throwing 4 touchdowns, 2 to his team, 2 to the other. Like that.
yes. It really took the air away because to me the Cleveland Browns, they played above their means, to finish this out. Now, as we see this trade, right? This trade for the Houston Texans prevailed as CJ Stroud is now going to he's going to ascend in the quarterback ranks. Is the Browns trade getting looked at even worse now because of what happened? Because technically, CJ Stroud is replacing Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson wasn't even in the playoffs. Is this going to like haunt them for a long time?
That's a nice $200 billion piece of window glass you got there. That's easily breakable. It looks like. Hey, Deshaun's got to stay. Deshaun's got to stay healthy. That should be the main priority for Cleveland. He's got to stay healthy.
I disagree. I could sit on my couch and collect 230 mil.
That is true.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me at all. Sit down to 230.
I've heard a lot of Browns fans, and I work with a couple of them here in the city. There are a lot of Browns fans that are we want to keep Flacco. I'm just like, all right.
I would advise against that. I mean, my thing is this. Hey, you got to this next year. Hey, it's sink or swim. In the great words of Snoop, if you can't swim, you drown the drizzle. Because the thing is, this year, we gave you a mulligan the first year. The second year, we gave you the benefit of the doubt. Third year, you get hurt. This is your fourth year. So if you stay here in your third year at Cleveland, you did not look good until that last drive before you got hurt. So this is your fourth year. So it's do or die, sink or swim. And you have arguably one of the most talented defenses in the NFL. Nick Chubb, hey, people can say what they want to about Nick Chubb. Hey, Nick Chubb did it before, he'll do it again. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw Nick Chubb's last injury. We didn't think that he'd even be in the NFL at this point after he suffered that same injury in Georgia. Nick Chubb did it before. He did it as a child. He'll do it as a grown man. I am not selling him short. Mm-hmm. So
I like that.
So you're getting everything back next year. You get your offensive line back. Hey, not even that. Your offensive line, one of the top offensive lines in the league. So with that being said, another guy that's in a quarterback's dream, you ain't got to throw on your back like a lot of other quarterbacks do. You ain't got to run for your life. You can stick back there in that pocket and just, you can go back there and make your sandwich if you want to and then throw the ball.
He still gets hurt somehow.
Yeah, you still get hurt somehow.
Like the turf monster comes and breaks his leg. Like, I don't know.
So this year, hey, I'm gonna draft. If I'm the Cleveland Browns and one of those six quarterbacks, one of the Super Six, what I call them, one of the Super Sixes fall to the second round. Oh, I'm definitely drafting. Because if you go down again, you might as well. Hey, we finna get some of that. We finna restructure some of that money.
You can't. It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
Oh yeah, it's fully guaranteed.
It's fully guaranteed.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think nobody's crazy enough to restructure.
And he took the pay cut. He took the pay cut the first 2 years. It's backloaded.
No, it's oh yeah, man. The
first year was $1 million because he wasn't going to really play.
He is the NFL version of Bobby Bonilla right now.
I want to know who his agent is because I want to talk to him right now.
Listen, let's just keep it real. They knew, hey, look, he is going to pay these women first. That's all they knew. He's going to pay. I don't know. His lawyer was like, he going to pay me, then we're going to pay these women. Stop arguing. Stop talking. Stop
That's
saying
right.
you don't remember.
You can't pay them for services. You got to take them to dinner because that's different.
There you go. Yeah, we took these women to eat and breathe at restaurants. That's what we did.
I will say this before we move on. The happiest man after watching this game is now sitting on a plane headed to Detroit right now.
Wow. Speaking of which,
because he got cast aside and now he's taking Tampa Bay to the divisional round of the playoffs. So
we're gonna get to that one. We're gonna get to that one. But speaking of which, the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions, y'all, 23-24, a nail biter, a good one. Now, this is once again shout out to our guy Jay, who is at the moment, checking out the regulations of several locations in and outside of Atlanta. Onyx, Cheetah, that's another one. Stroker's still open. Yeah, he's checking out those. All right, so can the D be enough to play hand in hand with this high octane offense? I'm reading the words, gentlemen. I'm just reading the words.
Hard pause.
Oh man. So is he fixing some like massage beds? Is that what he's doing?
From what Jay has expertise in ceiling pipe,
Ceiling mirrors. All right, ceiling mirrors. I like it.
Yeah, ceiling mirrors. The poles, they have to be lubricated properly. Jay has to make sure that they're spinning around. The mirrors have to be up against the walls at a whole, 180-degree angle. Anyway,
especially if there's two hands on the D. I mean, it's gotta be.
I do want to bring this up real quick. I just saw this come across. Jim Harbaugh has just finished an interview with the Atlanta Falcons. So he did. Yeah, he just interviewed with the Falcons today.
Yeah.
So he going to Harbaugh now. He's like, come to Washington, please, for the love of God, save our team.
Yeah. Listen, okay, Jay buying all kinds of bottles in strokers, okay. But once again, back to the game, fellas. So Detroit, the Lions. This is the quarterback swap game, as I like to call it. The Rams, of course, everybody knows, traded the Detroit Lions for a quarterback. So Matthew Stafford went to the Los Angeles Rams and won Super Bowl, and then Jared Goff went to Detroit and was ridiculed for 2 years, just about. But hey, look at what the difference 3 years makes, especially under Dan Campbell. So, gentlemen, right now, looking at this game, looking at what took place, the Detroit Lions, is the defense and the offense going hand in hand with this one?
This was the best game of the weekend. Like, it was a real game. It was a battle all the way through. Obviously there was the storylines of them playing against their old teams, but at the end of the day, if you're going to go with the storylines, the Lions wanted this game so much more than the Rams. So, they haven't won a playoff game since 91. There were so many things that made this team want this game more than anybody else. And it's not like the Rams came out and laid down. The Rams came out and balled out. Stafford had a great game. So it was awesome all the way through, nail biter, like you said. And, awesome for the city of Detroit to get this win. And then, now they have Tampa coming to town. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this like you said, Bo, this was definitely the best game of the weekend. Both teams played their hearts out. Detroit wanted it a little bit more. They got the win in the end. How good does this feel for the city of Detroit, though? They've been waiting for something like this to happen, for them to have hope. They haven't had hope since, like you said, since 91. And, for it to be, because, the ironic thing is their former quarterback, like we said, he's in the building for this game. He's on the other side. How fitting is it that the quarterback that was sent off from LA so that the Rams could go win a Super Bowl is giving the Lions their first playoff victory since 19. That is, you just can't write this stuff sometimes, and it's wonderful to see for Detroit fans who have been waiting years and years and years, decades even, to see some semblance of hope come to the city. And I love what the Lions are doing. I love Dan Campbell as a head coach. Their secondary does worry me a little bit because it's not the best, and the teams that they have left can throw the ball pretty well, including the team that's coming in on Sunday against them. But they keep this up. I mean, everybody's going to be rooting for Detroit at this point because it's a feel-good story. Detroit's been the laughingstock of the NFL for decades, and to see them have it's great. It's great for football. It's great to see it.
Yeah, Champ, Your thoughts on the
Hey.
Rams and Detroit Lions game, my brother?
Hey, this could be the year for Michigan, the great state of Michigan. First, the Michigan Wolverines win the national championship. Then, the Detroit Lions win their first home playoff game since Barry Sanders and the Wayne Fontes era. Not only that, we saw something that we never thought would happen. The Fab Five reuniting. We saw that. Chris Webber finally making his way back to the University of Michigan to rejoin the Fab Five. Not to mention Juwan Howard is the coach at this point. But I digress. So this is a good story for the entire last 2 weeks for the great state of Michigan. So, that being said, hey, post game last week, watch Baker Mayfield, because he could very well come in and upset you, because that secondary is very, very suspect. So, hey, just watch yourselves. Hey, don't get too high, don't get too low. This is still the playoff. But hey, make sure that you do what you're supposed to do as far as running that rock, because you did a hell of a job of it last week with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So don't ask for Jared Goff to do too much. Run that ball, play good defense, and try to keep guys from exposing the back end, because we know that secondary is suspect. But if Aiden Hutchinson and the front seven can do what they're supposed to, they can keep that exposure away from them. Because they're going to need it this week, to be honest with you, especially with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
Man, let's take a look at this. Who's that right there? We got the Botkins Show. Go Packers, go! Shout out to my guy Nick Botkins. Don't forget to check myself and Nick Botkins out tomorrow on Head Kicks and Haymakers. We talking MMA, boxing. We talking Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and all that good stuff. Shout out to Nick, man. I appreciate you following through. Listen, you made a good point about a lot of things that we got to talk about for sure. You know, when we're thinking about the D, we don't want anything coming on the back end. You know what I'm saying?
This really is a late show, huh?
Right. Yeah, this is a little late night show right now. Okay. But of course, man, let's get into it, man. Like the story, I'm a storyline guy. You know, of course, you know, I have a background in sports and journalism, so like you got to put the feel good story in there. I was looking at the game, and I was looking at you know, some of the stuff that they got on Twitter, some of the people that were there, you know, sharing stuff. Like they kept showing this old man, this really old guy. He was really close. You could tell he had on like the original patent leather gray Lions shirt. I mean, not shirt, but jacket. And he was crying on the sidelines. And I was like, bro, this is a touching story. The Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, who used to play for them, you know, like what else can you do? And they beat the guy who's basically the martyr for all things Detroit and Matthew Stafford. Like literally to me, you know, and they had the pantheon of great Lions on the sideline. You know, of course, they had Barry Sanders out there. Barry Sanders was standing next to Megatron. Megatron was next to Lil Sean. Lil Sean was being held by Eminem. Like, what else, Detroit, do we need? Like, what up, though? You know what I'm saying? Then, of course, like you mentioned, the Fab Five thing, they showed that. I thought that was one of the coolest moments in TV. And somehow, some way, we have to recognize that Jared Goff is actually a serious quarterback in this league.
He made it to a Super Bowl before. It's not like
you're right. Yes, he made it to a Super Bowl, but somehow, some way, like what happens? They just disregard him to the land of misfit toys in Detroit.
I mean, they ran into the Patriots. I mean, not too many people, with the exception of not too many people could beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl consistently.
Eli.
Even
what is it with Giants quarterbacks having obscure winning acclimates? Eli Manning beats Tom Brady. Freaking Daniel Jones beats Lamar Jackson. What is this?
I don't know.
But 15, Nick. He's top 15. He's super mid.
Super mid. Yo, but why they kick Pete out of town? Karma going to come back for Seattle and Tennessee.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, man.
Old man
I,
Pete.
I am watching intently on what we're about to do next because it's either going to be a smart move or it's going to be a dumpster fire, and there's no gray area.
Shout out to Bizarre. Yeah, I saw Bizarre was out there with he had a shower cap on. I saw that. Yeah, but okay. Goff is what, top 15, top 10? Literally, like he's right. If he's outside of the top 10, but he plays his way into it as the season goes on every year.
He's top 5 in the NFC for sure.
But yeah, but when the season starts, everybody's putting these other quarterbacks ahead of him. But somehow, some way, his win share go up when he's on the field. He doesn't turn the ball over as much.
Yeah.
The way he's making the other team better.
Yeah.
Like I said, 277, 121.8 quarterback rating. You know what I'm saying? And let's talk about this too. Amon-Ra St. Brown emerges as a top 5, if not top 10 wide receiver this year for sure. We got to give him some credit. Once again, the non-prototypical wide receiver is emerging. He's not 6'2", he's not 6'3", he doesn't run a 4.4, 4.3, but he makes people miss and he catches the ball. His catch radius is ridiculous. So shout out to Amon-Ra St. Brown about that. What about can talk about? What did he say? If Cousins is Walmart, Golfer's Target.
So does that make Dak like Wish or Temu? Like, what are we talking about?
Bargain bin.
Hey, listen, ain't nothing wrong with Publix. We like.
I mean, hey, if you drafted Jared Goff in fantasy this year, you were very, very happy because he put up some numbers for you this year. So
he did.
It's funny because Goff can do that. Goff there reminds me a lot of Stafford there, right?
Dak is Kmart, so he's non-existent. I get it.
Oh man. Disappears in the fourth quarter. I like it.
Yes, just like
now they're bankrupt.
You can call them Sears.
See, he's like he's the opposite of Tony Romo. Tony Romo shows up in the fourth quarter, except the last like minute or so, and he's not there the rest of the game. Dak just doesn't show up. He shows up at garbage time. Is literally what it is.
Yep.
Well, look, guys, we got one more game to cover for last week, and we don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Rec Room Sports Podcast. It's your boy K Witt. It's Alan. We got Undisputed Champ. We got Football Talk with Bo. Everybody is locked in because we got to go talk about these games for next week. But right now, we're gonna get into this last game. Eagles, Buccaneers.
Oof.
Everybody sees the emoji like what? The shoulder shrug. Eagles like. What happened?
Hey,
what happened?
At least you didn't have to sign up for a streaming service to watch this one.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
Yeah, you got this on ESPN or ABC, depending on your localization. So,
Goff at home in the dome is good. On the road, stay away from him. Well, we shall see. He's home. He's there.
I said this earlier. This was a bad week for the NFC East. Unless you were Washington. You had a good week because you got your new GM and you saw everybody else take a dump on themselves. So
right.
Another Jay reference. Shout out to Jay with the Washington out there.
But yeah, I said this earlier. If there's one team that had a more disappointing performance than the Cowboys this weekend, it was Philadelphia. Because not only did it look like they didn't show up, they just didn't care. I didn't see any care. And they were talking about, they were celebrating. They were hooting and hollering when the Cowboys lost last night. And they were, having a good old time. They're too much. Because, the perfect example was, Trey Palmer on the touchdown catch. Bradbury didn't even bother to try and tackle him on that play and just let him go by. Just let him go by and score. I know people are going to discredit this for Tampa Bay because, the Eagles just really didn't show up. They haven't shown up the last 7 weeks, if we're being honest. They just kind of fell apart. And, it starts with coaching. It starts with Nick Sirianni. It starts with him getting this team ready. It looks like A.J. Brown's on his way out now. Jason Kelsey's retiring. Tampa did something no other team has done all season long. They finally stopped the tush push. Got him on the 2-point stopped the 2-point conversion, which kind of was really the nail in the coffin for them because they didn't do anything after that. And again, like I said earlier, if there's one guy who had a great weekend this weekend after seeing Cleveland lose the way they did and getting a big win last night, it's Baker Mayfield. Why is there no talk of Baker Mayfield being comeback player of the year with what he's done in Tampa? I'm surprised there isn't. I'm surprised. Well, I mean, it's Damar Hamlin. I get it.
I mean, a guy died,
right? Like, I feel like if you die on the field, you're automatically comeback player of the year. Like there's no ballots, there's no voting. You're just like, oh, okay, here's your award. Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
But yeah, great season by Baker. He showed that he can still be a solid quarterback in the NFL. Already they're talking about giving him another 2-year extension. They want to keep him. They want to keep him in Tampa because he's done so good with them. And maybe it's to the point now where they could keep Mike Evans because there was talk of Mike Evans leaving town after this year too. So if they keep Mike Evans, they keep Baker Mayfield, they keep this team around, add a couple more pieces with it. I mean, Tampa's going to basically control that division unless, something crazy happens in Atlanta or, Carolina decides to, get rid of their owner, but, we can't have everything nice. But yeah, I got to commend This is the Baker Mayfield I saw at Oklahoma. This is the Baker Mayfield that I saw before he came into Cleveland. And I saw this come up here. There are 5 quarterbacks in NFL history who have won a playoff game with 2 different teams. Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Baker Mayfield. And he won it with 2 teams that are really not good teams historically. Cleveland Browns got them their first playoff win since they were reintroduced into the league, I believe, in 2000, and then of course winning one for Tampa this year. So there's the Baker. He's done great. He's still proven that he can play in this league, and he's got a good chance to go into Detroit and get another win for him.
What was crazy about your comeback player of the year is people were trying to make a case for Flacco to win it, right? He comes back for 3 games and he played well, but if you were going to look at other players, why wouldn't you have looked at Baker in that scenario instead of Flacco, who comes back from just not playing, right? It's like,
he was on his couch for like 12 weeks,
right? He's like, I came back from being terrible with the Jets. Like, what are we talking about? But it was funny because he was getting actual consideration for that for playing 3 games, which made no sense to me.
Man, I mean, my whole thought was, of course, you got to throw Flacco in. The thought of Flacco has to come to your mind, just like you said, because he was completely not there in New York, I believe. But to come off of the couch and make an impact, I think that was one thing. Champ, your thoughts on the Baker Mayfield show and the Eagles slow?
It's just plain and simple. They need help in their secondary, and they need help at the linebacker position in Philadelphia. And they're definitely missing Shane Steichen and their defensive coordinator at this point that they lost this past year. It's just plain and simple. And I hate to say this, they made a grave mistake by drafting purely from my Georgia Bulldogs. They should have never done that. That was a huge mistake. I mean, and I understand you bringing guys with chemistry from one team and you think you're going to recreate that magic. And if you really, really look at it, there's been a lot more, and people are going to fight me on this, but there's been a lot more busts and booms coming out of Georgia these last couple of years. I mean, you really want to be honest about it. I mean, if you think about some of the running backs, some of the linebackers that Pittsburgh drafted, if you think about some of the running backs that came out and really didn't make a big time impact that we thought they were going to, I think Nick Chubb and Sony Michel was kind of the only exception at this point, and Todd Gurley. Rest of the guys, really, where are they at this point? So you got to ask yourself, hey, who was in that draft room? And you got to ask yourself this. You remember when they used to make fun of Al Davis back in the day? when they used to say he must have watched that one game on television and said, I wish I had that guy. So I believe the Philadelphia Bulldogs, the Eagles, did that because there's no way that you looked at that entire roster and just drafted from one school. There's no way. Now, you did a good service by drafting Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter has played dividends. But for you to just go pure Georgia, that was a complete disaster. And a lot of these guys are going to be on different teams in the next couple of years. But they need to fix that back seven. They need to fix the linebackers. They definitely need to fix the cornerback position because for you to put Kaylee Ringo, for you to have to take Bradbury out and put Kaylee Ringo in there. This is not the Kaylee Ringo. Kaylee Ringo got us the game-winning interception that won us our first natty. But if you go back and watch football, if you go back and watch college football, with him in the cornerback position, he'll give up a couple of big plays here and there. He would give up a big play, not just here and there. He gave up quite a few big plays at Georgia. He just made the right plays at the right time, which masked his deficiencies at a certain point. But when you have to do that and put a guy who's a nickel cornerback at best right now, I will say I was stressed right now because this is the beginning of his career. Who knows what he may become? We've seen it before. But for you to have to plug him in because Bradbury was getting burned like grandma's toast on Sunday, it's like crazy. So.
I'll tell you who's Philadelphia is really missing right now. C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
Them letting him go was probably the biggest mistake they made in the offseason. And that's partially why I picked the Cowboys to win the division. I got laughed at for it, but it turns out that's kind of what killed them. The back end of their secondary took a huge hit when CJ left.
Is it safe to say that this is the same Philadelphia Eagles team that we've been seeing all year long, except they were winning and eking out wins? Because at the beginning of the year, Jalen Hurts was a turnover machine, but no one wanted to hear that because they were winning. Mm-hmm. They really wasn't running the ball the way they were supposed to, but nobody wanted to hear that because you were winning at a certain point. And no one wanted to hear that, hey, this defense doesn't look quite the same as it did last year, but no one wanted to hear that because they were 9-1. No one wanted to hear that at a certain point. So this is the same team. The only difference is late in the season, there's two seasons in football. There's first half of the season, there's second half of the season, and then there's the playoffs. And each one of them are a whole different ball game. Right. In the second half of the season, the things that you neglect to address during the first half, it catches up with you. And that includes all of the turnovers, your lack of running the ball, your lack of a competent offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator to the point where you have to bring in the pencil guy, Matt Patricia, in order to take over. I mean, every flaw gets exposed the second half of the season. And my thing is, did you really have it in the first place? Because all of these issues was at the forefront. You just were winning to mask them.
Yeah, I mean, most of those wins they backed into. So it's not even like they were, even in wins, you were like, man, this team is just not right. Mm-hmm. The defense wasn't great. The offense didn't have the swagger that it did the year before. Even in all those wins, you're just like, man, the Eagles, like if they ever get it figured out, they're going to be a tough team. But, and then, as we saw, they never did. But,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's, yeah.
The minute the 49ers went into Philadelphia and kicked them in the mouth, that's when people were like, oh no, this team is in trouble. This team is in real trouble. And then what happened in the weeks that follow? They go to Dallas and lay an egg. They go to Seattle and lay an egg on a Monday night. They lay, the one game they won, they almost lost.
Yep.
At the end, the Giants. So
get it, Eagles, lay an egg. Got it.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, with the way the Cowboys season ended, with the way the Eagles season ended, I'm starting to get 2020 vibes for next year. I don't know why, but I hope not, because that was a year I would like to forget, both for obvious reasons and for football reasons. But it could be what we're headed towards in the East, y'all. The Eagles are going to take a drop, I feel. The Cowboys, I think, are going to take a drop a little bit. Giants are probably going to stay where they're at because they just, they're losing Saquon. They kind of don't know. And like I keep saying, the only team that has done anything right this week has been Washington.
Right.
I love their GM hire. I love their GM hire.
How weird does that feel coming out of your mouth?
That makes me want to vomit, really.
Listen, the thing is, guys, we're talking a lot about the Eagles. Of course, we gotta show some love to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because if we think about the last year and a half, Baker Mayfield has been on 3 goddamn teams and won games everywhere he's gone. He's lost some. Don't get me wrong.
They were picked to be dead last in the division this year.
They were picked to be dead last, but Baker Mayfield is a prover wronger. He likes to prove people wrong. He likes to say that they counted me out. That turns Baker Mayfield on when you call him or you tell him he can't do something. And we saw that on many occasions when, of course, he went from Texas Tech to Oklahoma. He went to Cleveland.
He's a two-time walk-on. He's a
yeah,
two-time
and
walk-on.
he went to Cleveland, and they said you can't win in Cleveland. He did that. He went to Carolina, although it didn't really work out as well. Then they went to LA. Then he went to LA and won like in 4 days or something ridiculous. I'm starting to buy more stock in the Baker Mayfield bandwagon, if you ask me. But I got to keep it real. This is a team that was built for Tom Brady, and it is paying dividends with Baker Mayfield at the quarterback. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but
the biggest turnaround for Tampa Bay is them finally getting a running game. Them getting a running game was very beneficial. If you go back to his days at Oklahoma when he had both Pirine and Mixon in that backfield, that is when you saw Baker Mayfield at his finest, was when he had a great running game. And now that White's running the ball well, this Tampa Bay, if they run the ball effectively the next coming weeks, if they keep moving on, this team's going to be dangerous.
Well, thank you, Alan, for alluding to things that have to do with running games, because coming up next, we're going to preview these games, and we're going to try and get it done in a 20-minute span. So let's go ahead and get to it, boys. Texans Ravens. Okay, so this is one in which, of course, does this matchup help decide this year's MVP? Because, of course, somehow, some way, C.J. Stroud has to have a horse in the MVP race, and he probably has already sewn up the Offensive Rookie of the Year race as we speak. So, Texas Ravens, 4:30 Saturday. Does this matchup decide if Lamar wins, does this decide who will be this year's MVP? Go.
No, I don't think so. I think Lamar's already won MVP at this point because it seems like he's going to be. Yeah, it seems like he's the unanimous favorite. Although I think McCaffrey should get a little bit of a say, maybe even to Tyreek a little bit. But I mean, it's Lamar's award at this point. CJ, I think he would have had a good shot had he not been out for 3 weeks. But he's definitely won Rookie of the Year for sure, in my opinion. I mean, I love Puka. I think he had a phenomenal season, but they usually give it to the quarterback if he has a better year overall. So it's probably going to go to CJ. I like this game. I think this is going to be a tough physical game. I'm interested to see how this offense does against a tough Ravens defense. And again, can we trust Lamar enough to see him win at home in a playoff game? He's 1-3 in postseason games. That's not a good record to have. That is Cowboy levels of bad. So I got to see it first. I got to see Lamar win a game at home, a meaningful playoff game at home. I know he's been phenomenal this year. The Ravens have done a lot to help him. I got to see it on paper. I got to see it on the field. I can't just see it on paper, which is why I'm going for the upset. I'm going upset. I'm going Texans. I'm going Houston. I'm a believer in CJ. Give me CJ all day. Give me the Texans.
Oh man, who's the next on this one? This is all of a sudden become interesting.
Go ahead, champ.
Hey, Lamar has the MVP pretty much wrapped up, but not in the court of public opinion. So, with that being said, if he loses this game, they can very well take it from him. You give it to somebody else, especially if Christian McCaffrey and the San Francisco 49ers make a deep playoff run. So look out for that. If he loses this game, he could very well be robbed of it. Now on paper, he's supposed to win. Well, like we say down south, what's supposed to happen and what's going to happen, two different things.
Two different things.
Now, you have to ask yourself this. If Lamar goes out here, now you're getting your greatest weapon back in Mark Andrews. First time in NFL history. Not even the 2000 Baltimore Ravens led the league in sacks, takeaways, and points and yards allowed. No team in NFL history has done that. So he has arguably, on paper, I will say, one of the greatest defensive of all time. So you got that. You got your main weapon back. Then they went out and did you another solid sign, Dalvin Cook. Now, all of that is taken into consideration. Think about who's out for the Houston Texans. Noah Brown is out. Tank Dell is out. Two of his main weapons is out for C.J. Stroud. If he goes out here for the second week in a row, beat a top 2 defense, C.J. Stroud is solidified. But, unfortunately, he ain't going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking the red.
Yeah, well, and Vegas doesn't think he's going to do it either. They have Baltimore at -9. Like they, so I
Give me
take
plus money on that. It's going to be a closer game than that.
Exactly. I'm taking the Ravens to win, but I'd take the Texans to cover. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the way the Texans have been playing, the way CJ's been playing, like I can't see them just getting smoked here. But that being said, I think the Ravens will be just too much.
Man, you guys pretty much covered it all. Howdy, fellas. Let's see who is this on the comment list. Beautifully bearded bastards. Hello, everyone. I need to be a part of that show. Why did nobody send me an invite to be on that show? Go Ravens. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all for tuning in. Thanks, beautifully bearded bastards. Make sure to send me an invite. I want to be a guest on the show. Look, man, check this out. I love the fact that they got this far, the Texans. I love the fact that somehow, some way, once again, y'all know me, I'm a story person. Nobody believed in C.J. Stroud. Oh my God, he can't pass a test. I used to fail tests all the time. Okay, numbers on paper don't work well with me. But if you tell me the numbers, I got you. But don't diagram it, none of that. But somehow, some way, this young man has done well. Now, against a defense like the Ravens, I think he may meet his match, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think that is a negative. When you're thinking about D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud, the offense, and how far they've gotten, I think this is a complete win for the Texans as a franchise. This is like the sky's the limit type of scenario. You know what I'm saying? Even if they lose, like the jersey swap between Lamar and C.J. Stroud will just show you how much respect that should be garnered towards C.J. Stroud's way, because I'm sure they're going to do it at the end of the game. But I got to go with the Ravens on this one. Lamar Jackson, and listen, I've been waiting for a Odell Beckham show-out game. I'm seeing it happen. I'm waiting. Odell Beckham showing a little bit of these last few games. And old man like Odell with those knees, when you give him some rest, this is the one where he gets to pop and plan his way out. Zay Flowers, that small wide receiver group that's in and out of those cuts, in between those zones. And Zay Flowers is one of those guys that's recognizing defenses really well, where he's running slower in between zones so that the ball can get fit into those small holes, catches the ball, and then accelerates away from defenders. I think this is a game where we see it's going to be close, but I think it's going to be one of those. All right, it's 27-7 at the half, and then the Texans come back, and see what happens. Baltimore is going to shut the gates on any team that shows up to M&T. Get your crabs ready. Andrews will be back too. Yeah, we mentioned that. Andrews will be back. We definitely
Speaking of tight ends, keep an eye on Dalton Schultz in this game. He could have a big day for Houston.
keep an eye on the crab boils that's going to be happening in the parking lot at M&T Bank Stadium. That's what's really going on out there. Because I'm telling you, them boys in Baltimore, they're going to party. They're going to play go-go music. They're going to dance in the parking lot. That's what I know. Let's keep it moving, boys, because we pushing the time. Boom. We got next one of the ones that I'm actually really, really looking forward to. Let's go ahead and go there, man. What about that? Packers and 49ers right now at 8:15 on Saturday. Is this the perfect storm for the Niners to represent the NFC and win the Super Bowl? Now, boys, this is a tough one right here because, of course, let's look at all the factors. Let's look at what's going on with the Packers. Let's look how good they did. But let's look at the Niners on rest, coming back. Everybody's healthy. What are we thinking?
Well, I'm sure as a Seahawks fan, Bo would hate for that scenario to happen. So
I don't love it because they're going to hang the banner on us opening the season if they do it. That being said, I do think San Fran wins this game.
Yeah, I believe so too. I think the 49ers are just going to be too much for Green Bay. I love what Jordan Love has done this season. I mean, much like the Texans, nobody expected the Packers to be in this situation. I mean, hell, you went into the AT&T Stadium, kicked our ass. So, and if Aaron Jones has had 4 straight games of 100 yards rushing, that's probably going to stop this week because the 49ers defense is just too good. I think the Packers will keep it close. I like a lot of their young talent, but I think at the end of the day, the 49ers are just going to be too much for them.
That's another 9.5-point line.
Yeah, then that's all.
I'll take it. I'll take the Packers on that to cover at the least. I still think the 49ers would win, but
yeah, they're gonna cover that 9. They're gonna cover that 9. Bo, what do you think about this one, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Green Bay story, right? They came on charging hard at the end of the season because they started out like trash, and they really turned it around. Really kind of found a rhythm with that offense. And, they sneak into the playoffs, they get a playoff win. And I think this is where their adventure ends.
Champ, what do you think about this one, my brother?
Hey, look for a big game from Christian McCaffrey. Every time they've given him the ball 20 times, they've won the game. So look for a big game from him. Niners win.
Yeah, listen. I'm going with that. Everybody else right now. Definitely going Niners on this one. This is another instance, man. Straight up and down. Nobody thought we could be here, fellas. That's what they're going to say in the locker room. The Green Bay and the Jordan Love and those young guys. They're going to go, man. The sky is the limit for us if we could just win. But winning is not in the cards. I think in this one, I spoke to the year. I think like the year before, when the 49ers played the Bills, and then every time they ran the ball, they just ran Trent Williams on that pull, and they ran him dead and smacking whoever was on the other end of the field. And because it gives, giving that offensive lineman that momentum into your best defender. Like this is nothing like it. And I think somehow, some way, Christian.
If you see a 300-pound man coming at you at full speed, you might as well make that business decision and get out of the way.
I wish I could show y'all on my phone.
Like, I tripped.
Yeah, I wish I could show y'all on my phone. I was not close to Trent Williams when he came to that Jaguars game, but somehow, some way, his head was above the border, and he was signing autographs. And he's such a nice guy. Everybody keeps saying that, but he's a huge human being who moves in such a nimble pace. You know what I'm saying? So I really think, the weeks off is only helping the San Francisco 49ers. If you thought they had, lost all their quarterbacks last time, they are not going to risk it this time. I think they're going to make sure everybody's staying upright, and they're going to get all of those screen passes, all of those swing passes, all of that good stuff that you think is going to happen is going to happen. Deebo Samuel's running the ball. I think, and definitely Christian McCaffrey is going to be hitting them over the head. And we got Brandon Ayuk over the top. We're going to watch those RPOs, constantly. So I'm definitely going to run with you guys on this one and go Niners. Oh, we got another one. I like. Now this is one where I definitely got to go. Hey, it's up from here. Chiefs Bills, man. Sunday 6:30. Is this an instant classic waiting to happen? How cold is it going to be in Western New York? Is the question. But of course, everybody knows the deal. We just saw the Chiefs play in the frozen tundra of Kansas. You know, the Bills just waxed my Steelers basically in a similar situation. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? What, 21-28? But you know, hey, I'm with it. What you guys thinking about this one?
Classic, it could be. It very well could be because these two teams have history with one another. I really don't think it will, though, because the Bills are motivated. They've been in this situation multiple times, and every time Kansas City has come up on top, they definitely want to win this game now that it's in their building. And also, this offense for Kansas City is not the same. I think their defense could still have a good game. Their defense is going to have a good game in order for them to stay in this game. You know, Chiefs fans have been saying it all week, all year long. If we score 21, we'll be fine. Well, I think you're going to have to score more than that in order to keep up with Buffalo, because if Josh Allen plays like he has been the last few weeks, you're going to have to be in a shootout with Buffalo in order to win this game. And I really don't think, aside from Rashee Rice, I really don't think you have anybody else who can get you, not even Travis Kelce at this point, who's kind of disappeared a little bit. So I think Buffalo makes a statement in this game at home against Kansas City and blows them out the window.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think the Bills win, and I think the best thing KC can do to try and keep their offense as close as possible is, have Tony up there with Taylor Swift in a suite, get him as far away from the field as possible. But yeah, no, I think the Bills get this done.
Just put him in the backfield, for crying out loud. Don't even line him up as a wide receiver.
No, that's what I mean. Like, it's up in the stands. Like,
yeah, have them away from everyone. That's what they say.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I think the Bills get it done. I don't know if it's a blowout, but I do think they get it done. Weather won't really be a factor because both these teams play well in the cold.
Champ, what we thinking about the Bills and the Chiefs? 6:30 on Sunday.
Hey, gotta ask yourself this. They say we score 21 and we win the game. Can you score 21 over the course of these next 2 weeks, considering these defenses that you got to face?
True.
Because I can't see you score 21 against that Bills defense, and I can't see you out-dueling them. And if you get past them, I can't see you getting past Baltimore if Baltimore delivers like they're supposed to. But like I always say, what's supposed to happen and what is going to happen is two different things. So you better hope for an upset with CJ Stroud, because I think you're going to make it out of Buffalo alive.
Ooh. The spicy pick from my guy Champ on this one. And for me, man, personally, I am torn because anytime I see Patrick Mahomes on the field, I think, man, there's a possibility that they can win. Travis Kelce, I don't think plays horrible 2 weeks in a row. I think that they figure out a way to get these wide receivers involved very much into the scheme where they're not catching the ball, but maybe they're catching the ball in short instances, in screens and things of that nature. This is where the football acumen of coaching comes into play when they go, okay, guys, I've been here before. I've played in these cold weather games. I've coached in Philly, blah, blah, blah. I'm the big walrus out here. Let me show you how we win that game. Did y'all see how his beard had the icicles on it? I was like, how is he surviving, with his lips like that? But anyway, I digress. Back to the game. I honestly want to say this, man. I hated the fact that Josh Allen did the Kenny Pickett almost stop and slide and ran for freaking 47 yards. But I see him repeating such a display of quarterbacking again for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not saying that Patrick, I really think this is the field goal game this weekend for me. In my mind, there's going to be somewhere in there, fourth quarter dynamics are going to happen, and it's going to be a field goal game. And somehow, some way, I think Buffalo is the one that kicks it and gets it right over the uprights in my mind for me. for that one. Oh yeah, well, okay. Oh, the bearded bastards. Everybody's going KC in the comments, man. Let you know what we're doing, man. Let us know who you think is winning in the comments. I appreciate everybody still watching. Feather Freebird, what's going on, guys? And the beautiful bearded bastards are still in the building. What's going on in my Triple B family? And then we got one more, guys, we got to cover. Of course, we've talked about this one a little bit. We're going to talk about it one more time, man. Buccaneers, Lions, the game of misfit QBs. Now, if your quarterback's been in more than two locations and won some playoff games, this quarterback game is for you. So we're talking about, of course, Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, man. This is almost a toss-up for me, to be honest with you. This can go either way. Guys, what are we thinking about Buccaneers Lions Sunday at 3 p.m.?
Yeah, I like the Lions here. I don't agree with the line. The line is 6.5. I think the Bucs will cover just because it's the Lions, and I don't trust them to blow someone out. But yeah, I'm going to go Lions here. It's a home game for them, and weather doesn't play a factor. It's a dome, so I mean, there's none of that. But yeah, I like the Lions to get this win at home.
What's going on to the kneecap biting with the Motor City Lions? Hello, boys. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you. This is since you represent the Lions, put it in the comments how you think the game is going to win. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Who's got next on the Buccaneers Lions game? Who's got it?
Whoo, man, been a great year for the Motor City. Been a great year for the home of Ford. First, Michigan wins. Then you win your first home playoff game. Like I said earlier, the Fab Five finally reunites.
Finally.
But unfortunately, that storybook comes to an end this weekend at the hands of an Oklahoma Sooner by the name of Baker Mayfield.
Oh man. Oh geez. Listen.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and feel dangerous? Do you ever wake up in the morning and just like, you know what? I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna piss excellence today. That is how I feel Baker Mayfield has been all season long, or at least the last few weeks for sure. I'm going Tampa too, because I think that defense is going to come ready to play. Ooh. I think that secondary is a little suspect in Detroit. I think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to have a great game. Give me Tampa. I'll roll with it. Give me my Oklahoma quarterback. Let's do it.
Yes.
Look at you guys out there with a little shake and bake.
Right. Yeah, man. I like that. I like how y'all just come together. Nobody saw that coming. But literally, bros, this is the tough one for me. Let's put the comment up there on the screen because I like what was said. Let's go. Boom. Last time we played the Bucs, Demo, Gibbs, Branch, Gardner City, Johnson, James Houston, and Laporta was limited, but they're all there this time. So I got the Lions winning, but not covering the spread. Wow. Okay. Now this one right here, bros. I'm telling you, for me, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. Who's gonna actually prevail? And for me, this is another one where the possibility of the defenses playing a large part in this win will be, I think, the determinant factor. And in my heart of hearts, I want to see Detroit go farther than they've ever gone before. But somehow, some way, man, this Tampa defense really looks like what they had when Tom Brady was there. It looks just. If I squint just a little bit, I swear it's the same people. Isn't that Vita Vea down there somewhere? I think so. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, when you get the tackling, because Tampa Bay tackles. I don't know if y'all remember that. There's tackling in this. Tampa Bay is tackling. You got Vita Vea still out there. Levante David. Antoine Winfield Jr. I really feel like these players are going to show up in this game. And I'm not saying that the Detroit Lions defense won't, but they are tried and true out there in Tampa Bay. All they wanted was somebody to play quarterback. So for me, I'm going with the Bucs on this one. Shout out to the gang, man. Hey, shout out to Primo Star, who's actually my cousin's a huge Tampa Bay fan. Got in the comments. We have showed that the bend don't break defense work when it makes stops in the red zone, which Detroit hasn't given up but 2 red zone TDs since that Denver game. I love these statistics. Thanks to the guys at the kneecap fighting with the Motor City Lions. I love this. Hey, listen, win or lose, I need you back in my comment section. Shoot me a message on Twitter. Maybe we can get you in here, especially after the conclusion of the game over the weekend. I think we picked them all, boys. And in my mind, really, we are set up for a banger once again this weekend. And I'm telling you, I was looking for Jay, but I think he's doing his thing. I think he's found exactly where the leak is in the dressing room. So he's probably gotten to work by now.
I think he finally found Jim Harbaugh. So he's
it's happening. So as we continue on, man, let's go ahead and knock it out. Say, Alan, thanks for coming on and filling in as a co-host today. Once again, you are my vote for Rookie of the Year at LTS. Thanks once again. Tell us where we can find you for the rest of the week, Al.
All right, so you can find me at April30 on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Tomorrow night, we'll have our NFC East roundtable with Jay as well, representing the Commanders on that show. It's going to be interesting to talk about talk about how bad the division is tomorrow night. Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern will be our new Cowboy show, Inside Cowboys Nation. We'll be talking about, who should get fired, what do they do with the team going forward, what's going to happen going forward. Hopefully we get some news on stuff that happens by the time that happens. And then we got a brand new wrestling show that's starting on Saturday night as well. 9:15 Eastern. Myself and Mr. First Down are going to be previewing the Royal Rumble come next Saturday. So definitely check that out this week.
Oh, yeah. Who's the only division with 2 teams in the playoffs this year in the divisional round? Hey, listen, they coming with
that would be the NFC. That would be the NFC North.
Yeah.
That'd be the NFC North.
Coming with the stats at the end. Hey, champ, my guy, what's going on with you for the rest of this week, bro?
For the rest of this week, keep your eyes on TikTok. I will be bringing out a few storylines for many different things. The next video will be the Green Bay Packers and how they have copied the San Francisco 49ers formula and drafted to develop rather than to throw them out there immediately. And I will explain.
The fan needs to apologize to Brian Gutekunst.
Yeah, they need to. This week, after that, I will be doing the PSP Sports PSP podcast. Shout out to my main man, Sports PSP. His podcast will be on Friday night at 9. And we will be going over a multitude of things. Not sure what the topics are, but we have a great show every single Friday. Watch out for that. And next week comes the debut of my show, The Undisputed GOAT. Look out for that. The debut on NFC Championship weekend. This is a rough one. We ain't got all the bells and whistles yet. We're just gonna go through the motions and see what happens, and we're gonna get some traction going. That's how you're supposed to do it. So Undisputed GOAT coming next week doing AFC Championship weekend, and Sports PSP podcast coming this Friday. Don't forget to tune in on Monday. I'm also doing Brandon from the Block show and Trent show on Tuesday as well. So look out for those 3 coming.
Man, okay, so we know Champ got a lot going on. Make sure you tune in to him. Make sure you follow him on TikTok, one of the places where he puts his heart on the line when it comes to these wins and losses for these teams. Great content right there on TikTok for Champ. So let's make sure we look out for his new show as well. Bo, what we got going on for you for the rest of the week, big guy?
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials at Football Talk with Bo. Of course, my channel at Football-Talk, and of course, Roku TV 5 days a week.
Man, okay, and me, of course. Let's go ahead and holler at JJ. We appreciate you, man. We know you're working hard. Don't eat all the flats. Don't forget me and my guy Nick Botkins out there tomorrow. We got head kicks and haymakers. It's a lot going on in the world of MMA. UFC 300, it keeps getting better and better. UFC 297 coming up this weekend, I believe. We got so much to preview. And don't forget, we got In the Hoop with the LT. That's the LTS basketball show this Friday. I will be back. The gang will be in the building for that one. And then I'm planning on watching some football. I'm on X. Which X? You on X? You are? It's the late night show. All right. So we don't know which X you talking about, brother. Put your ad in there so I can put it up on the screen. But yeah, and once again, everybody who's tuning in, make sure you locked in. We're going to do this. We're going to do the playoff series going forward for the NFL, all for the next 2-3 weeks up into the Super Bowl. And after that, of course, we're going to do a post show, and we're going to just keep it rolling, man. So I appreciate, my guy Undisputed Champ for coming through. I appreciate Bo for coming through. And of course, Alan, short notice, but he showed up and put it all on the line for us this time. But you guys know what time it is, right?
You had more time.
So you know what that means, boys. We got to get up out of here. So one more time for the whole gang at Red Room Sports, man, the whole gang at LTS, Tanner Dawson, we appreciate you. Don't forget, tell a friend, like, share, subscribe. Let us know what we need to do better. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Who's covering the spreads? Where you betting at? MGM, all of that good stuff. We're doing it, man, once again. So I appreciate you. We can't forget, Jay, let us know, man. Don't take pictures. All right? One more time, boys, man. We out of the building. Here we go.